Welcome to an Etheria restart guide on NicoNana, both for the Hell and Nightmare difficulty. This is a simple fight with only 4 anima that you have to bring, and if you do it correctly, if you follow my strategy, it is silky smooth. It's the fastest run possible. You're going to surprise yourself at how easily you can do it once you follow my guide and you use the right kind of units. So let's get into it. What do you need to know about NicoNana? I also want to mention you are going to be max efficiency farming your shells at the Hell difficulty of NicoNana for a little chunk of time. Once you unlock it at level 35, you can't move on to Inferno until 50, so you're a little bit stuck here. Yes, Sharon unlocks at 40, but it's kind of the same procedure for Sharon, then Hoyon, then Rangokutsu. So you're probably going to settle in here for a while, so it's important you learn how to dominate it quickly and farm the crap out of it. NicoNana over here is this blue, teal-haired, innocently cruel, petite girl. Who cares? She's got a giant mechanical gorilla, and he's going to kick your ass if you don't fight it properly. How do you fight it properly? How do you avoid the ass kicking? Well, you've got to kick his ass before he can kick yours. Mind all my foul language, but it's the only way to describe it. He hits like a truck. We can look at these moves over here. Big damage, and he steals your turn meter. Then he's got this big AoE with defense break. He is able to put AoE decreased defense on everybody. There's a 50-50 chance. That's a lot of annoying RNG. And then if we head over here, for every 2 turns of action he takes, he's going to deal 15% more damage. It's ramping up. It is nasty. You notice I haven't clicked on this button. That is because this is the key to the entire fight. This ability, Friendly Match. He starts with a 90% extra damage reduction, so he is a total tank. It is very hard to kill him. I say him because you got to fight the gorilla, but it's NicoNana and her gorilla. When you attack, though, it's going to reduce the extra damage reduction by 1.5% for every 1 additional speed the attacker possesses compared to the unit. So how do you make this work? Well, interestingly enough, this is not that fast to fight. When you've reached this point, you're at level 35 or higher, you have unlocked this, you're going to have encountered so many PvE instances, or at least I did, that I was surprised at how fast the enemy units are. You're used to that in PvP, but I was very surprised in the early game how fast some of these enemy PvE monsters can be. However, in this fight, NicoNana and her gorilla are not that quick. So what you're going to want to do is be faster, speed yourself up, and slow them down. So how do you do that? So you're going to need some units that are faster than NicoNana, and one of them needs to decrease speed, put out a decreased speed debuff, and one of them needs to increase speed, put out an AoE increased speed debuff. This is to ensure that you're fast enough to go first, and then you're debuffing him, so you're growing that distance between how much faster you are than he is, and then you're buffing yourself. You're putting AoE increased speed on all allies, so you're increasing your speed, just growing that chasm between your speed and their speed, the NicoNana and the gorilla speed. So to take it back again, every additional speed the attacker possesses compared to the unit, and key distinction here, this is speed, not turn meter, but every additional speed you have, whatever that difference is, that is going to lead to a damage reduction of 1.5%. You don't need to be lightning quick. I have found if you're 175 speed or faster, you'll be faster than NicoNana and her gorilla, and then you can even have 1 or 2 units of yours slower once you take into account the increased speed they're going to get during the battle, and then ideally if you bring some kind of turn meter boost. So what you're going to want to do is get in there, slow them down, speed yourself up, and destroy NicoNana and the gorilla before they can start whacking away at you. So how are you going to do that? Well, you need to use certain kinds of units. So I'm going to show you my comp to begin with, and I'll describe the roles, and then at the end we can go over substitute anima that you can put in to fulfill the same roles. But you'll see here, I have got my Dina. She's going to be my big debuffer that leads to huge damage. She is super key for this, and if you've got her, please just use her. She is like a top tier SR unit. She's easy to build. You don't have to skill her up, though if you do, it's great. But mine is unskilled. It does the trick. The debuffing, the damage ramping is just incredible. Then I've got my decreased speed unit. That's going to be Rosa. It's not 100%, but it's really likely. We'll go over that after the battle. Then I've got my increased speed unit, who's also going to buff my DPS because she's got increased attack, so she'll make sure everyone's fast as well. This unit over here being Tsukiyomi. On top of that, she's got turn meter boost. For her, it's a single target, but it's a big boost. It's 60% increased turn meter without skill ups. It eventually goes up to 100%. She is not skilled up. However, that 60% is plenty to boost up my Heinrich. He comes in with more debuffing, more DPS, and then the whole thing just plays out in a pretty awesome way. So I think it's easier to show, not tell. Let me make myself really small here in the corner, and I'm just going to press play, and you're going to see how this works. We'll throw it on 2x. But here comes Dina. She actually landed all 3 debuffs there. So you can see that's a defense break, that's a vulnerability, and that's an erosion. All those things we'll talk about after the battle compounds to just a ton of damage, and the build is just nothing. She's literally just fast with effect accuracy. Next up, we got Rosa. There's a small chance she's going to miss the decreased speed, but almost always she gets it, and there it is. Once that's on, you know you're not going to lose this fight. Now we've got Tsukiyomi. She puts up increased speed, and she puts up increased attack. So now we're dealing more damage, and everyone's fast. She also increased the turn meter of Heinrich, so he gets to go before any of those units. We re-enter, and here comes Heinrich. He puts out more debuffs, leading to more damage, and now the fight just ends. So you'll just watch. There's the double hitters from Rosa, crits on crits on crits. By the way, Rosa also did AoE increased crit rate, which leads to more damage. And there you go. The fastest mid-game run you'll ever see from my account, 33 seconds. Anyone that watched my Doki Doki Nightmare 3 guide and watched that run, it was my fastest run ever. It was almost 3 minutes. It was 2 minutes, 47 seconds. However, this fight, if you follow everything I've said and I'm about to say, it is silky smooth. You just need to bring the right units. And many of these guys are replaceable. The key thing is you just need some kind of debuffing to lead to more damage, or just crazy DPS to begin with, and then you need the decreased speed and you need the increased speed. Could you get away without it? Sure, but very few people when they unlock this will have the gear to do that, so you need to lean on the right support and the right debuffing to make it happen. So let's head into my characters now and let's discuss the key ones. We'll go in order of speed. If we go down here to my Dina, you'll see she's not even 5 stars. She's 4 stars, level 40, and she doesn't have any skill ups, not at all. She's got a couple prowess points into skills just for, a little extra defense, a little extra HP, a little extra attack, along the way, but none of that matters. We haven't pushed any skills up. There's no investment here. We simply put my standard fast effect accuracy gear. It's actually the exact same modules I was running on Kazuyo the Reverie in my Doki Doki guide. The only difference is just the shell, and this shell is trash. I'm just bringing it for this Shadow Dash ability, and then the fact that it's level 30, it's a maxed out unique purple rarity shell, but with that comes 18 speed, and this is how I was able to make sure she is the fastest. Aside from that, it's just effect accuracy. So I've got 97% effect accuracy. If I was you guys, I would aim for a minimum of 80%, but frankly, as long as you can make sure she's 170 speed or higher, and then she is the fastest on your team, after that point, I'd put everything into effect accuracy. It doesn't matter after her first move if she dies, honestly. She could get stunned, she could get killed. We'll do a couple runs at the end and you'll see. It just doesn't matter. When it comes to other stats, I ignored everything. We didn't care about HP, we didn't care about crit rate, attack. It's just get her to be the fastest and get her to have enough effect accuracy. Why is that important? Well, if we go over to her S3, this is what she opens with. There are 3 amazing debuffs here, and she puts them out in order. So she does a quadruple hitter, and as she lands debuffs, the debuffs come in order 1, 2, 3. So once she lands the first one, then she'll move on to start trying to land the second one, then she'll move on to start trying to land the third one. So the order they come in is first, decreased defense. This is a defense break of 60%. So she's got a 40% chance each one of these 4 hits to land it. If she lands it before the 4 hits are up, after that she moves on to her vulnerability. So this vulnerable debuff increases damage taken by 30%. That stacks and compounds with the decreased defense, so it just leads to so much more. The chance to land that is 25%, and it's going to last for 2 turns. If within the first 4 hits she still has hits left over and she has landed the decreased defense and the vulnerable, she'll move on to erosion. This is a unique debuff to her, and it's really good. The next instance of critical damage the target takes is going to consume one of these stacks, and it's going to deal real damage equal to 60% of that attacker's attack. So what do I mean by that attacker's attack? It can't be Dina. There's that stipulation over here. If one of those allies and does a crit, so they're dealing critical damage, it doesn't matter how much, they're going to trigger essentially pure damage or true damage, ignoring all the defense, and it will be equal to 60% of the attacker's attack. So if you're bringing units with fairly high attack, like my Rosa and my Heinrich, not that it's that high, I mean, it's good for early game, it sucks for anything else, that's going to be some extra bursts of true damage. On top of that, that attacker that triggered the critical damage, so Rosa or Heinrich or Tsukiyomi in this example, they're going to get a turn meter boost, 6%. A lot of these things can get higher and higher with her skill ups, but you don't need it. As long as she's getting the defense break, that's enough. You'll get the run done. If she lands the vulnerable and the erosion, the run's just going to be faster. Speaking of erosion, if she lives, and I do encourage you to put a little bit of HP on her, you can see the build I've got over here is at 11.2k HP. If she doesn't get stunned in this build, she can get a second attack off, and that's kind of cool because she'll go to her S2, which is another chance to land erosion. This is a double hitter, and each one of those hits has the chance to land 2 stacks of erosion. So if you get lucky and you hit on both, if you hit that 60% both times, you got 4 stacks. That's going to happen 36% of the time. But the key thing is she's going to land at least the 2 stacks. One of the instances, she's going to land the 2 stacks. That'll happen 84% of the time. The chance of her missing is 40%. The chance of that happening twice in a row is 16%. So you have an 84% chance that she's going to get at least 2 stacks up, and that'll also be enough damage to speed the run up. So that's a pretty dang cool thing that happens with Dina. Up next, we got Rosa. It's important she goes before you really need big DPS. So what do I mean by big DPS? That's going to be when Heinrich comes in. Not that he's the greatest DPSer in the world, but also when Rosa comes back in after Heinrich, both with the follow-up attacks she gets from her Blade Heart Bloom debuff that she's going to put out, and also just when she comes back in with her S1 and very often double hitters from her S1, again from the Blade Heart Bloom. So you just want that revving up. You want to get that decreased speed out as soon as possible. You'll see with Rosa over here, she's got an AoE move, but we don't care. We just care that she's going to be able to hit NicoNana, and it's going to be a triple hitter, and each hit has a 30% chance to put a 2-turn decreased speed. That might not sound very high, but actually, if you do the math, you actually have basically a 2/3 chance you're going to land it. That 1/3 of the time she doesn't land the decreased speed. Some of those runs can fail. They probably fail maybe 1/3 of the time, half the time, but 2/3 of the time she's going to land it and you're going to be good to go. If you have other people with decreased speed, you can definitely bring them, but she's really good for this because she brings so much DPS as well. If you are ever able to skill her up and you bring this to 40%, the chance gets really high. We can do that very quickly now. You'll see now it's basically an 80% chance, a 78.4% chance. It's really, really likely. And like I said, the run can still survive, but for the run to be super fast, super clean, and 100%, you do need to land that. But once you've got that down, you're going to be very strong. And then with each crit she's putting out, you're going to see she can land this Blade Heart Bloom, which leads to a lot of extra DPS because of just naturally what it does, extra damage taken from basic attacks, both those dealt by Rosa and her allies, but also the chance for her to keep decreasing the turn meter of that target. So it adds a lot of manipulation. When they're under Blade Heart Bloom, there's a 75% chance every time she attacks or someone else attacks and they crit that she's going to do an extra attack. If you skill up this passive, which you eventually should, it's a 100% chance. Even at base, you can see my Rosa here with no skill ups. It is very, very good. Next up, we got Tsukiyomi. There are several substitutions for this. You really just need someone that's going to support your team and most importantly, bring increased speed. And Tsukiyomi is going to do that over here with her S3. If you look at Tsukiyomi over here, we're getting increased attack, more damage, great, and we're getting increased speed. Both of those buffs last 2 turns and are AoE. But then additionally, she's going to do this turn meter boost of 60% to one of her target allies. She's almost always going to target the ally with the highest attack, and that is the case in this battle, which is why she targets Heinrich, and this works really, really well. Because Heinrich will come in with his S3. This is going to lead to just a lot of good debuffs, but the key thing is his debuff over here, Last Words. This increases critical damage taken and increases the chance of the enemy taking a critical hit by 7% per stack, up to 4 stacks. This is with this skill at level 4, but the key thing is it's just another unique debuff that stacks on with the debuffs put out by Rosa with her Blade Heart Bloom, and then obviously with Dina with the vulnerability, the erosion, and the decreased defense. It just leads to big bursty damage and a very fast fight. Those are the key things you need to know. I'll click through the modules and the shells very quickly now so you can see, but it really comes down to being speed tuned in the right order and having any semblance of solid DPS. So let's go in order again with Dina. You can see she's at 184 speed. She's in Swift Rush. The only matrix set bonus she has here is Swift Rush. That's just for the speed. She's got the high effect accuracy, and that's it. For the shell, ignore anything. The shell effect doesn't matter. Nothing matters. We are getting the 2 matrix points of Swift Rush, and we're getting the Shadow Dash with the flat speed. It just leads to her being speedy. That's all that matters. Then we have got Rosa, Key thing here, she doesn't just do the hit, doesn't just do the decreased speed, doesn't just put out the Bladeheart Bloom. She's doing AoE increased crit rate by 30% for all her allies. So you want to build her with at least 70% crit rate. If you're bringing Heinrich, it could be a little bit less for later in the battle, but because she goes first, and because that's the only way she's going to be able to land her decreased speed, it only happens on crit hits, you need her at least 70%. So when she adds the 30%, her crit rate is lying at least 100%. And after that, I'm just caring about a little bit of effect accuracy. It does not take much. She needs over 175 speed. She's coming in at 177, and then DPS, right? So I've got some attack. She's got a tiny bit of crit damage, and then she's got the crit we discussed. This is the whole build. We've got plus 12 onslaught for 45% attack. We've got plus 4 swift rush for plus 8% speed. Next up, we've got Tsukiyo Mi. Nothing really matters here besides speed. If you can get some HP for tankiness, that's cool. If you can get effect accuracy on her, that's cool because she has stuff like silence. But it really is just about that speed. She is right at 175, perfectly into our tune. So she's at exactly 175 speed. That is great. Remember, from her S3, it speeds up our Heinrich, not just in terms of the AoE increased speed buff, but also she's giving him the plus 60% turn meter. That allows us to run Heinrich a little on the slower side. Not that slow, he's still at 169, but he could be slower. The key thing is she bumps him up, he gets to go before the enemies have gone, and then he just needs to land some debuffs. It doesn't take much accuracy. Seriously, from what I found, you don't need to build any high levels of effect accuracy for these debuffs to land in the NicoNana fight, even on Hell. So after that, it's just crit rate, and it is attack. Just swapped on a random crit piece because I realized his crit rate wasn't at 70% or higher. So he's at 75%, which obviously is 100% or higher with the crit rate buff from Rosa. This new piece actually brought his effect accuracy to 13%. But the key thing is, he's fast. It is what it is. He's got the crit rate, and he's dealing the damage. So there you go. That is the entire run. Now that you understand it, I figure let's watch the run twice more, and you'll see what's happening now that you get the background and the mechanics of the whole thing. We'll do one run on Nightmare, the easier difficulty, and then we'll do the second run on Hell, the first run you saw. And then after that, we'll just head into the archive, and I'll give some shout-outs to other units. So let's head into battle here, starting with Nightmare, the easier run. You haven't seen it yet. And keep in mind, the run could always get thrown off if Rosa doesn't land the decreased speed, but it would be kind of cool to see it anyway, just so you can know what could go awry. Without further ado, we'll just keep it on 3x auto. I'll press battle. Here comes Dina. She's going to land some debuffs. So you can see she didn't land the erosion, but she landed the decreased defense and the vulnerability. Here comes Rosa now. She actually didn't land the decreased speed, unfortunately, but she did land the Bladeheart Bloom. I think we have a decent shot to survive this run since it's the easier difficulty. There's Heinrich. He comes in with some nice DPS and the last words, his specific debuff. There's Dina. She landed both of the double stacks of erosion, so that brought up to 4. You see those huge chunks of damage going off. Part of that is the erosion getting triggered. Heinrich got stunned, but again, it doesn't matter, and down it goes. So actually a super fast run, even when we didn't land the decreased speed. Obviously, it was the easier difficulty, only 34 seconds. Let's run it back, the same thing. I'm not going to change anything. I'm not going to cut. We're going to go here to Hell. We're going to go to Hell. We'll do this run again, full auto. Hopefully Rosa lands the decreased speed, but also if she doesn't, we'll get to see what happens. There's Dina. Somehow she landed nothing. So, like, obviously in this game, so many debuffs aren't 100%. And there we didn't get the decreased speed. Everything's going wrong. We're going to get a failed run. That's cool. That's something you just got to keep in mind. Later on, I think we're all going to have such good gear and everyone will be skilled up. You're going to have a lot more opportunities to avoid missing things. But even still, there's a lot of effects, even on SSR units in this game, that aren't 100%, even with max skill, max circumstance, max condition. You're seeing, though, we do have enough stuff ramping up with all the amazing debuffing. We've got a pretty good chance to still win it, as I described. Let's see here. Dina missed a crit, so we don't get the follow-up from Rosa. Actually, the Bladeheart Bloom already fell off. Let's see what happens with Heinrich. Decent hit, but the decreased speed is off. Can we put it on now, please, Rosa? There you go. We weren't going to miss twice in a row. That would be unlikely. That would be about a 10% chance that you'd miss it both times, right? It'd be a 36% chance or so happening twice. Let's go again, and we can get it as long as Rosa doesn't get wiped here. There is the W. So there's your longer run. It's still 1 minute 4 seconds, right? So nearly a 3-star run. Let's do it one more time, hopefully seeing it perfect, where we're actually landing the debuffs. But you can see I'm not full of crap, right? Even if you miss the decreased speed, as long as you can get it a second time, you can still make the run work. Let's get after it now. Let's click there onto the gorilla NicoNana. Please land it. There we go. So we got the Bladeheart Bloom, we got the decreased speed, and then obviously we got the vulnerability there and the decreased defense. We didn't get the erosion that time, but typically you don't. You can kind of count on the decreased defense on that quad hitter with a 40% each hit. It's really unlikely, low single digits, that you're going to miss it 4 times in a row. But there we go. This is a great start. If we can get last words from Heinrich, which we can, we're totally cooking now. We're going to tear this in half. Stunned on Rosa. I will say that's the worst unit for us to get stunned in my specific comp. But we'll be fine. Bladeheart Bloom just fell off. Can she put it back on with a crit? Let's see. There it is, and there's the run. So that's what I'm used to, between 33 and 40 seconds or so. And you can see you can farm this really fast. You're getting a minimum of gold epic rarity shells, and they're pretty good ones. I'm not a big fan of Black Flag, but I love Twilight Knight, and you're going to have to max out a few epic shells anyway for one of the hyperlink charters, so it's certainly not the worst thing in the world. Let's hop in now to the archive, and let's talk about substitution anima. All right, let's start with our debuffing, the damage enabling that we had from Heinrich, and then of course that we had from Dina. I can't get over how good Dina was. One that has been keeping up with my streams, the last 2 SRs in the entire game I had to get were Dina and Dorothy the Wisher, and Dina, I was chanting for her every pull session until we finally got her. But who else can bring her kind of debuffing? Literally no one. In my opinion, including SSRs, there's no one that can do her level. We've got units like Heinrich that have really unique things that are awesome, but if you have Dina, please just use her for this. You saw how easy that was to build and how good she is at it. She's got 3 different debuffs she can land, and then she can land the erosion again from the S2. It is just phenomenal. But if we go up here and we talk about the SSR units, Heinrich obviously is awesome because the last words, his special debuff is unique to him, so it stacks with everybody else. That's like really nice that it's stackable with non-unique debuffs. If we continue down though, an amazing debuffer for this fight is Kloss. Unfortunately though, she's the wrong affinity. NicoNana is red, she is green. Reason versus Hollow, it doesn't work very well, but if you build her well enough, it will be successful, and you only need her to land that S3 that first time. She's got such good debuffs. She can be amazing at this, and additionally, she comes with her hacking stuff and also the big version decreased speed. 100% chance to land these things. So if you build her with her effect accuracy through the roof, you are absolutely cooking, but it does need to be very high, right? Because if we look over here, because she's the weak affinity, Hollow green is weak to Reason red, she's going to lose 50 effect accuracy. But also in this battle, you don't need much. So build her with 75, 100, you're going to be good to go for the vast majority of things. If you want it silky smooth, build her with 150, and you're absolutely cooking. The rest of her kit is awesome too. She's phenomenal for this fight if you've got her. If we continue on, another debuffer with decreased defense is Jada. She's not that reliable, definitely less than some of your SR options like Dina and a couple others I'm about to say, so I wouldn't go out of your way to use her, but she is pretty solid and her DPS is also very good, so she could be a supplemental unit. If we continue on now, a very good one obviously is Gray. He has the same problem as Kloss being the weak affinity, so just get that effect accuracy a little higher. If it's 50 or lower, he just won't land it. You're going to want 75 or 100 or 150 to be totally safe. But if you don't have Rosa, like her, he's going to bring the big version to increase crit rate, making your DPS better, and then he's got 80% chance to land the decreased defense, 100% with skill ups, which isn't that hard for a purple SR unit. Very, very good, and he's obviously the definition of free to play. The storyline gives him to you. To continue now to a less popular choice, we've got RC77. This is a pretty dang good defense break. It's a triple hitter, 45% chance per hit, decrease attack and decrease defense. RC77 is also the strong affinity. That is great. And another strong affinity unit is going to be Aboro. She's got bleeding, which is a cool form of damage with turn meter reduction. And then on the S2, a very good defense break with 100% chance. She's really good for this fight. But like I said, Dina is going to be the queen. When it comes to decreased speed, the options are fairly slim, but there are some good obvious ones. Rose is amazing. If we look at Kloss over here, again, she brings the decreased defense and the decreased speed. We've got Real Mocha, who's not going to put it out right away because her decreased speed is on her S1, but if this comes around and she hits it, it's pretty good, but obviously very unreliable. But her DPS she's so good, her DPS could even be good for this fight. If we focus on the SR units, though, Marvel is unbelievable for this, right? You've got a 100% chance when he's skilled up to land the decreased speed, and he's also going to land the decreased resistance, which basically guarantees everyone's going to be landing their debuffs. He's got the turn meter drop, and he has the steel turn meter too. If you get him, which I think eventually you're all going to get him, everyone will get every SR eventually. He's your top decreased speed unit. The reason I like Rosa is because she's also bringing crazy amounts of DPS and also that support functionality with the increased speed. My comp's good enough, as you saw. Even if she misses the decreased speed, we're pretty good. The final thing we got to talk about is going to be the increased speed. A good option is Freya. She doesn't have increased speed, but she has increased attack. And then when she puts out buffs, she's increasing turn meter. So that's something. If you do want the straight increased speed, an underrated option is Kazami Kazuyo. This is a very cool S3. It's a cooldown reset of 1 turn. It's kind of like the baby version of what Tsukiyomi does. It's a combination kind of between Tsukiyomi's S3 and S2. It's just worse. But you got the increased speed for sure for 3 turns, which is awesome, plus a reset. So if you do like Dina, she's going to get a 1-turn reset on her S3 and on her shell, or whomever you're using as that opener. It's a pretty cool kit, and she is a nice neutral affinity for this fight. Other options are Chalky the Echo. Again, like Freya, this is not an increased speed, but it is a very nice and reliable turn meter boost with an increased attack. And then she's got her Ave Maria buff, giving more turn meter, so it can ensure maybe you're going to be stronger throughout the fight, even though you're not going to get the same difference in speed because you don't have the increased speed. There are more creative options that you can check out, but the key thing is just knowing how to speed tune it, knowing how to build that gap between your speed and NicoNana's speed, and then just destroying them as fast as possible. So you want it to be bursty, you want it to be nice, you want to destroy stuff. To cap it off, how do you destroy stuff? I was bringing Heinrich because he pairs really well with the rest of the team, but there are easier ways to just tear this gorilla in half. The best is going to be D-Ting. Yes, he is just an SR, but for a lot of stuff, he is like the best single target in the game. He's easy to build because he gives himself crit, and then his overflow crit becomes crit damage at a crazy ratio. It's just amazing how easy it is to build him and how hard he hits. Bring him to nuke it down, especially if you don't have all the extra functionality. This is your best way to just get a ton of damage. Otherwise, just bring whoever your single target heavy hitter is or your big DPS from the SSR. So someone like Chloros is obviously going to be very, very good. Someone like Jada can be good, as I mentioned before. You know, Messiah can always work, even though he's got a lot of AoE, but that S2 is going to crush. You can make it work. You've got a lot of options. The final thing I want to say, actually, is Beyond Teen can be really good, especially if the battle is going longer. She's got crazy buffing here, but then she also has the healing, and she has the potential to revive. You get it. There are a lot of substitutions, a lot of options. You can dominate this fight, and I highly suggest you do. There's no reason not to absolutely destroy NicoNana. Thank you guys so much for watching this guide. I thought it'd be a shorter one. A big thank you to my editor, Mitchell, for editing this video. It was a lot of fun to make. I hope you guys appreciated it. If you do appreciate these guides, make sure you are subscribed to the channel. We are putting out Etheria Restart content all the time, so you're going to want to be here. Thank you. I've been Fastidious. Share it with your mother. We just missed the decreased speed, but we're going to win this fight. I'll see you real soon. Bye.
Fastidious.